Joining us, Richard Goodstein, Democratic political consultant and former advisor to Hillary Clinton's campaign, former Congresswoman Nan Hayworth, member of the Independent Women's Forum Board of Directors. Thank you to both of you for being here.
Sure.
Thank you, Sandra. Richard, what is going on here?
First of all, given what we know about Facebook's role in the 2016 presidential campaign, I think what there's kind of coming across is there's a fundamental immorality. It's not to say they're doing something purposely harmful to people, but they're indifferent. And again, if they stand by this memo, what they're saying is, if we connect one terrorist to another, if we're responsible for undermining our democracy, well, that's the price we pay for connecting people. I don't think the American public thinks that's okay. And I think what that's doing is going to invite a level of regulation that I'm sure Facebook doesn't want. But this kind of attitude is just going to bring it on.
Well, it's problematic that this internal memo is released when questionable practices are the news of the day with Facebook. I mean, the company, Nan, continues to lose a lot of value in the face of this. Zuckerberg reacting arguably more quickly to this internal memo than he did to the 51 million users data compromise. And he's saying, this is a guy who said a lot of provocative things. This one was what most people at Facebook, including myself, disagreed with strongly. So he is disavowing this.
Well, Sandra, then they had a business to take down the memo when it was first published. By the way, I have to take exception with Richard. The 2016 election result in no way demonstrated that Facebook was immoral. Facebook may be amoral because Lord knows they also quite willingly collaborated in selling data or facilitating the sale of data rental, if you will, to the Obama and the Clinton campaigns, and it wasn't just the Trump campaign. But the bottom line is, Sandra, that we all have to be aware that whatever we tell Facebook, whatever data we give, they own it. And that's their revenue model, that we don't pay, quote unquote, right? We don't subscribe to Facebook. We use it, quote, for free. But the pay for is that they get our data. And yes, we are at risk as a world and as a community.
Richard, so we connect more people, the internal memo states. That can be bad if they make it negative. Maybe it costs someone a life by exposing someone to bullies, which we know happens with Facebook. Maybe someone dies in a terrorist attack coordinated on our tools. The memo basically says, so be it. I mean, it's really quite alarming.
Yeah, really more so than all the data that was stolen from people. If again, Facebook doesn't somehow or other mount a campaign to distance itself from this, and I don't know how they do that, I just think this is going to be a black mark that's going to be very, very hard for them to overcome. I don't disagree with the Congresswoman's characterization of it being amoral as opposed to immoral. I will say this, though. People say, well, there's no evidence that Facebook affected the 2016 campaign. Here's what we know. A guy who read a Facebook post by a Russian bot in North Carolina, took his rifle to a pizza place in Northwest Washington because he read that there was some sort of sex slavery ring run by John Podesta and Hillary Clinton, and he was prepared to shoot people. So if you're prepared to do that because of what you read on Facebook, you think you might want to change your vote? Possibly. All I'm saying is that Facebook has a lot of work to do to dig out from under all this really horrible evidence that's coming out about their indifference to what their effect is on the public, so long as they're making money.
So, Nan, Andrew Bosworth is the man who wrote this controversial memo that circulated both inside the company and eventually around Silicon Valley, basically talking about how these questionable practices are justified by connecting people. He's issued a response himself. He says, I don't agree with the post today, and I didn't agree with it when I wrote it. The purpose of this post, like many others I have written internally, was to bring to the surface issues I felt deserve more attention with the broader company. Having a debate around hard topics is a critical part of our process, and to do that effectively, we have to be able to to consider bad ideas, if only to eliminate them. Nan.
Well, it's fair to say that he definitely articulated the terrible risk that is involved when we all become involved in these enormous social networks. And that is the one phenomenon. Human nature has not changed, but what has changed is the speed with which we can exchange information and indeed the vastness of the networks in which we can find ourselves embroiled. And there is a great risk. And to Richard's point, I don't know exactly what the answer would be either, because Facebook's going to have to level a whole lot more scrutiny. They're going to incur a whole lot more cost. Heretofore, they've run their model probably at relatively low cost. You know, they're able to reap a lot of revenues, especially if they took a laissez-faire attitude toward how their data were being used. Now they're going to have to, they've already started imposing a lot of controls. That's going to continue. We know that they're looking at salacious content and violent content, but they're really going to have to invest, and all of us have to be aware of the potential bias even in that.
Those are internal controls. We'll see if there's government regulations that kick in here, which could change everything. Thanks to both of you, Richard, Nan.
Thank you.
Good discussion.